Okay guys, so let me just quickly finish up this discussion. This first bullet point, and again pause and read over and then come back to me when you're ready. This first bullet point is really kind of moot point. I know some of you guys using the 89s now actually have been putting syntax in like this, but none of you would ever, you write your integrals, you write your derivatives, you don't write stupid calculator stuff. So don't mess with your readers. They'll get really pissed off if they see crazy stuff like that. Okay, so this next bullet point is huge. So I want you to read it and read it and read it 5 times over. Unless otherwise specified, your numeric or algebraic answers need not be simplified. If you use decimal approximations and calculations, your work will be scored on accuracy, so you should avoid decimals if you can. Unless otherwise specified, your final answer should be accurate to 3 places after the decimal point. So every once in a while, they'll ask you to round your answer to the nearest whole number. But unless they ask you to round, you are not rounding. You're keeping your answer. Your final answer must be correct to 3 decimal places. I want to talk about simplification, okay? It really, 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 really is okay, and every AP reader that I've spoken to actually says that they prefer it, okay? Do not simplify your answers on the test. I know some of you guys are sticklers and you feel uncomfortable doing this, but please don't jeopardize points. You can leave an answer as 2 plus 3, okay? You can leave an answer as x plus 5 plus 2x minus 3. Okay, when it comes time for Riemann sums, okay, you're doing a right rectangle approximation, or you're doing a trapezoid rule, or you're doing an Euler's method for BC, or the equation of a tangent line, just set up your work and move on. Set it up, get rid of all the calculus steps, so don't cheat them out of an integral, but once you set up the upper minus lower, you don't need to simplify to find your final answer, unless they ask for you to round to the nearest whole number or something like that. But just set it up, okay? You don't need to simplify, and if you simplify and you simplify incorrectly, you're going to jeopardize a point that you would have earned if you just set it up. So I know this is going to hurt some of you guys, and I mean that emotionally, because you're so intense about all this, but if I'm doing a right Riemann sum, let's say, and I'm doing 2 times 3 plus 4 times 1 plus 1 times 5 plus 4 times 2. And that would be the computations I would need to find my right Riemann sum. I should leave my answer exactly like that, okay? If I screw up my multiplication or my addition and I make a silly mistake, I lose my answer point. If I leave it like this, I get my answer point. Okay, so please just try to let it go. You're rushed for time on the AP test. Set up, move on. All right. The last thing that they talk about is, does a definite integral count as an unsimplified final numerical answer? Because you can argue that this integral from 1 to 5, like this one up here, of x squared dx has a numerical value for it, okay? What I just said was that you cannot cheat them out of any calculus steps, and by just leaving that integral, you're cheating them out of showing them that you know how to integrate, and that you know the fundamental theorem of calculus, which means that after you take the antiderivative, you've got to do upper bound minus lower bound. So you need to show that work. You cannot skip that step. All right, but this is how you should leave a Riemann sum, or a trapezoid rule would be even more intensive with what those computations would be. You just set it up, and you move on with your life. All right, read this through, pause it. When you're ready, come back to me, okay? They talk about the 3 decimal place rule. The 3 decimal place rule is just, they just adopted this in 1995, and that's their rule, and they're not getting away from it. You can report more accuracy than 3 decimal places, but the rule, the guideline is that you need to keep your final answer needs to be correct to 3 decimal places. So if you are done with a number, you can round it to 3 decimal places. You can round it 2 ways. You can round it by truncating. So if I have 4.39275, okay, I can truncate, which means I can chop it off after 3 decimal places. That's what truncate means. So I can keep 4.392 as my answer. My other option is I can round. So my fourth decimal place is bigger than 5, so I can make this 4.393. So AP will accept this as truncated 4.392 or rounded 4.393. They don't care what they see after that third decimal place, but don't mess around with them. Okay, so if I am done with a number, I'm not going to be using it ever again in my problem, I can round it to 3 decimal places. Okay, but if you're going to be using a number anywhere else in a calculation, so you've just found a point of intersection and you need to use it as a bound on an integral, then you are not rounding that to 3 decimal places yet because it might affect your final answer. You need to keep 5 decimal places, okay, if you're using a number anywhere else in your problem. Once you are totally done with it, it is acceptable to round, but if you round early, you round as a point of intersection and you got to use that as a bound in an integral, it might mess up your final answer to not have it correct to 3 decimal places. Okay, so make sure that you don't mess that up. You don't want to not get an answer point because you have 4.391 when 4.392 was acceptable. Okay, you won't get a point for the answer if all 3 decimal places are not correct. Okay, the last thing that they just talk about is domain, and I don't really even know why they talk about that. All right, so please make sure that you've watched this or you've either taken notes to review right before the AP exam or watch it right before the AP exam so that all these ideas are fresh in your head. If you have any questions, either see Ms. Smythe or ask somebody or you can email me. Okay, good luck on the free response questions.